Hello, it's Charlotte Sister C. Farrell, host of Powered by Age, Canada's longest-running senior-led podcast that invites you to do what you love.
This podcast is for you if you love writing or telling stories, if you love sharing poetry or doing interviews.
This podcast is for you if you love working on ways to create age-friendly cities.
This podcast is for you if you love learning how to tame technology and get more out of virtual events, if you love finding more ways to share your heritage or traditions.
If you love any of these things, you can go beyond listening and join our weekly podcast group. Simply email pbaafc@gmail.com and put your name in the subject line. Powered by Age is sponsored by the Government of Canada, New Horizons Grant, the 411 Senior Center Society, and G&F Financial Group. Welcome to Powered by Age. This is Thursday, the 22nd of July. We are rolling around with a Zoom program that has enabled us to see each other, meet each other, even though we are distant from each other. I am Charlotte Farrell, the host, and I am grateful to acknowledge that our program, our conversation is taking place on the unceded territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh people. Unceded means that basically we've taken hostage. We've taken we've settled on the property that belongs to someone else, and we're looking forward to and encouraging ways that in our lifetime there'll be a reconciliation in some ways, because it is a wonderful land that we have been able to enjoy and contribute to. Today we're talking about movement and health, and as we were observing, we do spend a lot of time sitting on Zoom and sitting in communications. And so there are some benefits to movement that I'll be talking about. But first, what we usually do is have the people that have come on early introduce themselves. And I'm going to ask you, as you introduce yourself, to tell who is your favorite author. Let's start with Nancy.
Ooh, that's a tough question. There's so many amazing authors. I'm Nancy Sinclair. Wayne Dyer comes to mind right away. Louise Hay comes to mind, and the list will go on from there. Thank you, Charlotte.
And what significant thing Wayne Dyer's work influence your life?
His teachings about intention. And his just whole deep-seated belief. He continues to be, he's passed on, but he continues to be such a gentle soul and very, very genuine. Like I said, I just think just his connection with Source and his ability to share that experience and share that work and understand it.
Oh, thank you. Neil.
What an interesting question. I think out of contemporary writers, I think the Nobel Prize winner for literature is Hermann Hesse, who wrote Siddhartha. And the book Siddhartha has been inspirational for me since I discovered it. After I saw the movie Siddhartha back 30, 40 years ago, and I have no idea who wrote the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu book about Krishna, but that's got to be second favorite. But I have nobody knows who wrote the book, but it's the most inspirational book. Yeah.
Okay.
I say.
It is definitely inspirational. Chris?
Well, I'm going off in a totally different direction. My favorite author is Louise Penny. She's a Canadian author. She has a series of books that are located in the Eastern Townships in Quebec. And for me, during the time when I wasn't really able to do very much because of problems with my leg, I was able to use the headphones and get the books from the Vancouver Public Library. So they've been a great source of entertainment for me, and that's what I've been reading more recently.
Okay, Leslie.
Wow, tough question. I mean, there's so many. And I was thinking about this and sort of breaking it down into genre. Thinking if I was thinking about nonfiction, probably Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote the Women Who Run with Wolves. And it's about, the historical role of women and women's empowerment. And yeah, quite a powerful book. And I think it was actually one of the inspirations for the Artist's Way, which a couple of people here have actually worked through. For fiction, I go with escapism every time. I'm currently reading the Outlander series, Diana Gabaldon, which is absolutely fabulous. It's a bit of a bodice ripper and a pot boiler, but lots of fun. I also like science fiction written by women, which is kind of a rare thing. But Margaret Atwood has done some of that, but the actual master of that is Ursula Le Guin.
Yes.
Yeah. The Wind's 12 Quarters. All those great science fiction books. So yeah, those are my choices.
Oh, I just happened to say I love Ursula Le Guin, as well as Anne McCaffrey with the dragons.
Oh, the Dragon series, yeah.
Yes. Ramona, Dr. Ramona?
One of my favorites.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes, you can introduce yourself and
Neil
your
was
favorite
saying
author.
something. Okay, so that's really a tough question, as everyone said, because I seem to be falling in and out of love with various authors. And I was just reading the Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. Yeah, I'm very interested in the Chinese and the Chinese customs, Chinese history. And also this book called, I strongly recommend it to everyone. It's called Keep Sharp by Sanjay Gupta. So it's a very popular book at the moment. It's difficult to get, but you can keep it on hold and get it. And it explains about how the brain is so important to us, which we don't seem to realize. And we have a lot of myths and fallacies about what we think about the brain. So the first half of the book is very detailed about, physiological things, how it impacts us. And the second half is more interesting about what we can do to keep our brains alert, and that actually it is the brain which is controlling our bodies and our health and our youth and everything possible. So that book, but my favorite author is actually P.G. Wodehouse. I really love him a lot because of the humor, and the humor is so what shall I say? It's not it's not like he's not trying to mock someone, or when you look at these stand-up comedians, then they always have to talk against someone in order to make you laugh. Many of them, some of them using abusive language and all, but with Woodhouse, everything is so blameless. The most they could be that the pig whom he calls the Empress of Blandings, and then his famous characters whom I really admire is his valet Jeeves, who is so calm and the exact opposite of his master, Bertie Wooster, the eternal bachelor who's constantly falling in love. And what I like about his books is that I always come out after reading his book so much happier than I was when I started. So that's about the books which I like.
And how do you spell the name of that author?
Which author?
You would,
That Sanjay Gupta, the Keep
yes.
Sharp?
Mhm.
Okay. Sanjay Gupta, Gupta. I can put it in the chat too. Okay.
Okay, that's great. Well, do people feel like you've read more during the pandemic than prior to it?
Yeah, I
Not
think so.
really. I never feel that I read enough. I have to kind of set a time aside every day for my reading. I've actually written more during the pandemic, which is more of a productive exercise, right? Reading often feels very passive. So, I can't read for long spells at a time. I think this is need for movement, which was one of the topics you wanted to cover today.
Yeah, for me, I've listened to more books, particularly sometimes, often, we wake up in the middle of the night and turn on Audible. And so I've been reading from the Warrior Goddess Meditations. Some books will put me to sleep in 15 minutes. It's better than a sedative. There's one that's a book about the cat. Not Who Killed the Cat. It's for scripting screenplays. But as I listen to it, 15 minutes, I'm asleep. But really, I'm reading from 5 books, and reading an actual book, I wouldn't read that many. But listening, I've been listening to Michelle Obama's book, President Obama's memoir, and Lisa Lickles, who has got several books. I read some of her books in hard copy, but she's one of my favorite authors because she has written Unbreakable. She's written Abundance now, but she worked with Mark Victor Hansen, who is one of the most prolific authors in America. I think he's the most published person. And when she first started, she just did the Chicken Soup for the Soul. She was one of the people who was a sounding board. She had drafts, and she was working toward getting African Americans to have their own Chicken Soup for the African American Soul. So she did a tremendous amount of work with getting friends to read her drafts, having churches to sign up for people to buy the book when it came out. So but from that first book, she said she made very little money. She spent a lot of time organizing it. The second book, she was featured in The Secret. She was one of the people that was in the book The Secret, and that drew a lot of attention, drew a lot more speaking engagements. But her final book, she was paid 7 figures as an advance. And so she is one of the few authors who now are still getting an advance for her work. But she reaches out to have workshops, classes, and things to help people write, to help people develop as a speaker. So I think that's one of the things I admire about her as an author, that she's not just sitting and waiting and looking for her next piece of money. She's really developed people to help them tell their stories, encourage them to tell their stories, to polish their stories up. So I guess that's why she's my favorite. But it's also how Audible and listening to books have helped me to read a number of different people at the same time, or use books as an alternative to a sleeping pill.
I've definitely listened to more books since the pandemic. And I find that with listening, because I'm outside every day walking and hiking and stuff, so I listen when I'm doing that. And then I love my hardcover books, but I will have multiple books, be reading multiple books at a time. And I have to remind myself sometimes that that's part of the journey, is all this opportunity with all this vast array of books, and instead of, because I used to pressure myself, I think, because I was so excited to read the books and study them and want to get through them and then get on to the next book. And so I have to slow myself down and it's the journey, it's the enjoyment. And there's always going to be a wealth of books for me to read. I'll never run out of books to read. So, but I do enjoy listening to the books. I used to always listen to something when I was walking, but more specifically Audible books. And like you just said, Charlotte, a variety. I've listened to some different types of books that I might not otherwise have been curious about.
Yes, and that's one of the things in our awesome August, we're going to have, leading into Canada Culture Days. I think you might remember from 2 or 3 years ago, Canada Culture Days were just 3 days, the last 3 days in September, the last weekend in September. Then during the pandemic, they pivoted and it moved to being from the 24th of September to the 25th of October. So we are participating in that. And one of the things we're going to offer is an opportunity for people to develop an audiobook. We'll have one session where people can listen to some testimonials, listen to some examples. And then each of you, Dr. Ramona, something that Neil, Chris, and Leslie have all done is record a poem or a story for our website. It's called SPIN, Stories, Poems, Interviews, and Novelties. So you would be welcome to do that. So our group is a little bit ahead of other people who might not have had any experience with doing an audiobook. So people will hear one, then there will be one with some tips and techniques, voice techniques, pacing, breathing techniques for making a good recording of your story. And then by the fourth week, each week of the 4 weeks of Canada Days, we'll be doing something building toward each person at the end having an audio piece that will get published through our website and, possibly also published in the resources that Canada Days puts out. Canada Days, in the province level, they monitor all of the things people are doing and they share them. At the federal level puts things into their reservoir. So September will be soaring and working on creating an audiobook. And whatever people create, it might be the first chapter of something that goes on, but we want to get more people having the experience of recording an audiobook or a section of a memoir, but something in that genre of books.
Yeah, that would be really cool, Charlotte. I'd be particularly interested in that because I'm working on this Japanese memoir and I think it would be great for an audiobook. So I'd love to get some practice on that.
Well, we will be doing it.
Sign me up too.
Yes. And I'm sure Chris will have another story. Well, you're also collecting, aren't you doing, you have a number of things that you want to put into a memoir?
Yes. In the group that I belong to, and we've been in this group, I don't know, I'm kind of losing track, 16 years maybe. And so during that time, I've written a lot of pieces. And so now I'm in the process of what I did the other day was to actually go through my computer and write down the titles of all of the pieces. And so now I'm in the process of putting them into some sort of order to see what's there, what needs to be finished, what needs to be edited, where the gaps are, so that I can fill in the pieces that are missing. If there are pieces missing, I'm sure there are pieces missing, because the way I've done it is all very, very oftentimes based a response to prompts. Because in our writing group, we've had prompts, so certainly in the earlier years. And so we would write to a prompt. And so my pieces are kind of all over the place. But I am trying to put some order into what I've written.
Right. Well, when we had the author Bill Arnott as a guest, he said, when you have a lot of things, if you pick the one that you're most excited about, because sometimes people will spend a lot of time trying to think, which comes first or which comes, if you get a rough order, an organization, but then make what you start with the thing that you're most excited about, because then you'll have the energy for it. And then completing that will give you energy and excitement to pick the next thing and the next thing. And so the things kind of order themselves around what's exciting and interesting to you. And they don't always have to be in chronological order. In fact, TV, there's so many stories now. They start the story and then they say 2 years earlier. Yeah. They start the story and they say 15 days ago. One story did it so much, I was like, I don't know where the heck the story is, because it's always 3 days ahead or 2 years back. But it's a style, it's a genre, a different way of organizing stuff from when we always had to go in a linear fashion. Okay, so speaking of moving ahead and the brain and the way we move, okay, the benefits of physical activity. One, we know it helps with our body weight. It can increase your risk. If low levels of physical activity can increase our risk of becoming overweight or obese. Exercising alone doesn't necessarily lead to weight loss, but when you combine it with a balanced calorie controlled diet, it helps successful weight reduction. And there's also evidence that regular physical activity can help maintain a healthy body weight over time. It lowers your blood pressure. I have had the experience of working with people as a nutritionist who had a very scary elevated blood pressure, and they were afraid to do exercise that it might increase the blood pressure. But working in coordination with a physical therapist at a center, working with a really beautiful center that was an adult daycare center, and all of the pieces were there, the physical therapists, nutritionists, social workers. And so a lady who was 92 decided she would lead the exercise class. So she had people, clapping their hands, moving. We're going to do a few things today that's called eloquent movement. They're things that I got with working with Dr. Geraldine in one of these workshops. But people's blood pressure came down because she, as you know, every medication has got its different side effects. And some of the medications for controlling or reducing high blood pressure affect people in different ways. So her goal was to help people step them down from medication or keep them from having to have medication by regular physical activity and doing activity at a level that's appropriate. Like I don't like the groups at the gym where they're moving so fast and they have all these movements and I feel like they're doing this and I'm doing that. That finding something like swimming, doing water exercise, sitting in a chair. 2 or 3 people have mentioned chair exercise. So it's the regularness, the regular physical activity helps increase the heart strength and it reduces the effort that our heart needs to pump the blood through the body. And with the reducing the force on your arteries reduces blood pressure. Okay. Regular exercise, especially aerobic exercise like walking, running, cycling, and water. They don't mention water a lot, but I had a serious injury to my spine. I wasn't able to do a lot of walking, but I found a program that had warm water. Some of the Ys around the city have warm water. You have to look a little bit, but there are places that have exercise and warm water. And I just floated. They had me float or hold on to the side of the pool and kick my legs so I didn't have to worry about I've had swimming lessons. I know how to swim, but I get terrified when the ground isn't, the bottom. When I'm getting down to the 6 foot level, I'm nervous and anxious. Nancy, likewise.
Oh, so, completely get that.
Now they have so many things. They have those spools, noodles in different sizes. Noodles help keep you afloat. So I use my noodle and just so many things that you can. I have. Chris is showing her shirt.
I didn't do that on purpose. I was actually looking for my glasses.
I thought you were making a comment.
No.
But the water is really, really a wonderful way to still do aerobic exercise because you can move your legs. You can do a lot of things without load bearing, without having to put pressure on your back or your legs. It lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is often associated with something people get as they grow older, but it's not necessarily so. All people, as they got older, didn't get type 2 diabetes, but we have to kind of monitor the number of things that sugar has been put in. They got sugar in the toothpaste. There's sugar in so many things. So getting used to, I bought one of the soda streams. I love the bubbles. I find I love the bubbles in a drink more than the soda. If I have the carbonated bubbly water. I can squeeze a little bit of lemon juice in it. I put even a quarter of a cup of orange juice in it. I feel great. And it reduces my risk of type 2 diabetes. And sitting with this pandemic, people have sat a lot more. So with the brighter days or with things opening up, it does give us an opportunity to get off the couch, get off the bed, move around, and reduce getting type 2 diabetes. And the association between movement and your blood sugar level, it's not always that a person has to have been eating candy or eating something that's a concentrated sweet. The oxygen, the level of oxygen that is in your blood also helps to clear the carbohydrate out. It helps to reduce the amount of glucose that's traveling in your blood. So getting more oxygen in, whether it's, as Dr. Ramona said, showing breathing. The people in that happiness group showed some types of breathing I'd never thought about, but doing that, learning how to do that as an exercise is another way of helping to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. Exercise and movement helps reduce the risk of certain cancers. Cancer is a very complex disease. People sometimes if you just listen to the influencers or listen to the commercials, there was a lot of attention about the connection with smoking, a lot of connection around alcohol. She said within that book, all the bad characters, bad actors, but the big thing of moderate exercise, using the body cells. A cancer or a tumor is a group of irregular cells that continue to grow. So movement in different areas helps dissuade, helps reduce the habitability. It's not so habitable for unfamiliar cells to live in a place that are being exercised and fed with oxygen. So there's definitely evidence that regular to moderate to vigorous exercise can help reduce our risk of developing certain cancers. Or when people have cancer. I have a relative who over the past 2 weeks have been dealing with his shock in having a diagnosis of a mass in his lungs. And he walks a lot, but he had stopped walking so much. He was doing a lot of work helping to feed homeless people, helping with a lot of things. He was a physical person, but he started having these sharp pains in his back. And to shorten a very long story, they did a CAT scan and they found there was this mass. But the downhill story oftentimes is some people within the group who've experienced, dealing with illness, they give you the worst case scenario. So sometimes people just are so afraid that the worst is going to happen. They don't hear the other things of what's possible with the body. So he, on one day when they were just overwhelming him with all the worst case scenarios for cancer, he went back home. They didn't even know he left the hospital. He went back home and he walked 5 miles to the river, and he sat by the river and he meditated, and then he walked back. Well, the other morning I was talking with him. He called me and he was in the middle of his walk, and he talked to me all the way back. And I said, you realize you talked a half an hour and he was not breathing hard. He was, even with this diagnosis, expanding and bringing more oxygen and more health. So some things disappeared off of what the people said they had seen before. So it just made me think, yes, there is a benefit in staying in touch with your body and sending love to the cells in that very area that sometimes you could be forced to feel afraid and shut down on, exercising that area. So he has set his watch for 7,500 steps. He was doing 1,000 steps. He's at 7,500 at a time when they've said there's this mass and all these things might happen to your lungs. He's going out and he's doing the walking. So it's made me today, I ordered a fitness watch because I don't have a pedometer. I use this phone. The phone is heavy and sometimes it doesn't count my steps. So my carrier had a special on the fitness watch watch. And so I'm going to walk. I started just walking a little bit more. And I think whatever it is, if you do it, it does nurture your brain. It does nurture your positive feeling about yourself. And it helps it helps when there's a disorder in the cells in an area to bring about order and to help clean them and help put them in an optimal state. Okay, it increases muscle strength and function. Skeletal muscle serves many functions. It helps maintain your posture, controls movement, and generates body heat. As we age, our muscle masses tend to decrease, often to leading because of a more sedentary lifestyle. So all of us, because we have been sitting so much with more hours, how many hours more of sitting do you think you've done since COVID and Zoom virtual conversations, Nancy?
Too many. Too many. It's such a double-edged sword. I mean, it's so fabulous that we've had the technology and the privilege and the luxury of Zoom and being able to stay connected online. And yet the time can go by so quickly. And I know on myself, I tend to hold my stress in my shoulders. So, just the focus and the concentration of being hunched over and staring at the computer screen and time moves by and, move from one activity, one meeting to the next. And I have to consciously make sure that I stand up and stretch. And I get to the point where I get antsy, like I need to get outside. I just need to get away from the computer. So it's a double-edged sword, like I say, the gratitude of it, but I have to be very mindful to take the breaks because otherwise it just sucks all that energy. It's too much.
Yes, and what we're going to do now, I mentioned eloquent movement. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, if I can figure out how to do that. Once it starts sharing, I lost my
it should be at the
screen.
top. Yeah, it should be at the top.
Stop share. Okay, so since we don't have to worry about seeing each other, there's going to be some things you got to do where you won't see each other. You might move out of the screen, but don't worry about that. We're going to start in the chair. And this particular eloquent movement is picturing the movement of a tree. And so I want you to bring your arms up, and here the branches are going up. Bring the branches up, up, up. And then bring your fingertips together so there's a heart. Now, let's breathe in and okay, now as you let your arms down, breathe out. And then bring them up with love, breathing in. Out. And now you gotta imagine a wind comes along. You might want to move back so you don't, and it's gonna sway. Your branches are swaying. Oh, let us sway over to the left. Feel that pop in the back of your spine. Oh, feel those things popping in your shoulders. Ooh. It's a gentle breeze. Oh, the wind is picking up like it is, like they said it's going to do outside. So here we're getting faster. Oh, the wind. It's got the high branches, swinging the high branches. Now the branches in the middle. And now birds are there. So imagine now a bird is there. This bird sees the tree and it's flying over. Oh, the bird is so happy. Feel the back, feel down your spinal column. You feel all that tingling. Oh. And now we come back up, the tree going up into its graceful heart. The branches up, touching each other with love. Okay, now there is one exercise in the mind body that says to imagine the movement of your favorite animal. So now we're going to just, and we can guess from what movement you make. You can do it either sitting down or standing up, but I want you to imagine and do the movement of your favorite animal.
My favorite animal is sitting on my knee right now.
Your cat? I'm doing my cat, but I'm up. Does your cat jump?
No, not really. She doesn't move unless she wants to.
Oh, I sometimes in the bathroom in the night screamed out loud because the cat gets up on, there's a cabinet that, space between the ceiling and the cabinet. And I'll be there and all of a sudden something jumps down. Just like, oh my God, what was that? And it's a cat. Okay,
She
what
does
was...
like to pounce on feet though.
What is your animal, Chris?
It's a bear climbing a tree.
Oh, a bear. Wow.
Black bear, koala bear, grizzly bear.
Teddy bear.
Oh, just an ordinary black bear.
Oh, okay. An ordinary Canadian black bear.
Yes, yes.
Well, let's try that. See what do you feel in your back and your arms as you climb like a bear?
Strength.
Upper arm strength.
I feel all of these things right in my spine. It's like just the tension coming out. What was your animal, Neil?
Well, I have a poem about a cheetah, and I was thinking about my poem and realized that one of the things the cheetah's really good at is standing perfectly still, watching the animals. So I managed to stay perfectly still, ready for the impala to realize I'm about to chase him, it.
Oh, what was your animal, Dr. Ramona?
I think you should just call me Ramona or Mona. Okay. I think I'm not very fond of animals, so I just try to be like a dog. I see a lot of them on my morning walk, so I just try to imitate.
Oh, you can have a dog that's there begging for his food or scratching.
Not a pet.
Leslie, yours was the cat. So did you move?
That's the cat. Partly, the cat stretch from yoga is sort of, bending your spine, but then also she scratches. So I was doing this as well. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I do the cat sketch. In fact, in your chair, that was one of the brain body connection things, was touch your elbow to your knee. My elbow doesn't quite make it over there. So I'm just going to have
the direction is everything, right? Just head in that direction.
Moving it as close as I can. Yeah, I thought I used to be able to touch my elbows to my knees. What happened?
Well,
Okay.
I can't do that because I've got my laptop sitting on my knee.
Okay.
Well, I've got my kitty sitting on my knee, so she'd be very upset.
Well, you got your bear. The bear will say, "Oh, what's this laptop? Is there any food in there?"
No food.
And Nancy, what was your animal?
Oh, Bengal tiger.
Oh.
And what's the difference in the Bengal? I see it's like a graceful movement.
Oh, yeah, the stripes. They're so incredibly beautiful. It just captures my heart. It's just in awe of them. But they're just so magnificent. And just the eyes and then bringing their shoulders forward and just sitting and observing and stretching, ready to move. Sitting in the tall grass.
That's a nice stretch. Can you push that thing off for me? Can you push that alarm off for me? I've got an alarm going in a different room. Okay, so we want to make sure we get to hear Neil's poem. Your poem related to health.
Yes, I really like my poetry, so here we go. This one
Really,
is called,
seriously, you like your poetry?
this is called I Am Tomorrow. I am tomorrow from the foods that I eat today. Not just the healthy foods, but the ones that please me as well. I am tomorrow by the emotions I experience today, not just the pleasant ones that please me, but all of them, both the up and the down. I am tomorrow by the thoughts that I think today. My thoughts create my body's chemistry that motivate and generate my actions. I am tomorrow from the words that I speak today. So I get teased, even rebuked for saying I am always good. I am tomorrow by the karma, both good and bad, that I create today. So the hippies of the 70s were right. What goes around comes around. I am tomorrow from the beliefs that I hold as true. Even if no longer true, beliefs learned in childhood are the most difficult ones to change. I am tomorrow from the stories that I cling to about the past. Every memory is a chance to embed a better tomorrow by choosing ones that I love. I am tomorrow from the gratitude I have when I realize how blessed I am to have someone to love, to be loved by someone, and be grateful for the life that I live today. I am tomorrow today. End of poem.
Wow.
Very nice.
That's lovely.
Well, any thoughts or feedback?
Very loving, very positive.
It was very healthy.
Also, I think it's very true.
Say again, Chris.
It's very true. Like the whole kind of concept is really true. It really is what happens. We are tomorrow by today, and all the things we do today. That's what we will be tomorrow, but tomorrow will be today. That's kind of cycle of living, right?
Yeah.
I felt that it aligned very closely with the theory of karma. I'm sure all of you know what that means, but then that makes us focus on what we're doing right now, because that will impact us in future lifetimes. That's the belief. So every action has a reaction. So I thought, I am tomorrow. So that was like really, really making us think of in that way.
Thank you. Shukriya.
Yeah, I like it came full circle, and the patterning, the rhyming rhythm pattern that it had was very good. It was a poem in motion.
Yes. I thought about that. Is that I am tomorrow by the thoughts I think today. My thoughts create the body's chemistry that motivate and generate my actions. And it's like, I'm thinking I need to get out and walk more. I don't walk enough. I'm too many hours at the computer.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten off the computer. There were some days that I really felt like picking it up. I said, when you're having a vision of going and throwing it over the back porch, that is not a good thing. And well, I am so happy that we were able to get together today for your ideas and for your sharing and enjoying the different movements that we did. And the movements also help us to lighten up, because as you do things and you're mimicking an animal or something like a tree, it does take your mind to another place. So it's like a brain refresh, because we have so many things. I've forgotten, they said millions of words that we're bombarded with daily, and so many different positions you have to be in on a meeting. One meeting you're leading a meeting, another meeting people are teaching something, another one people are arguing or there's a debate, and then there's a game show. So that movement, I find, closing the screen and moving around helps to refresh and to clear. So as you think of, or as we go into August, we'll have the yoga, the chair exercise, other things that people may be bringing or suggesting. Since we've opened the door for people, we talked about the business of writing, that we have Ruth Kozak, who she's not retired. She has shifted from working in one sphere to being a publisher, and she publishes other people's work. That there are also many people who were through all of the 6 centers here doing a lot of classes that have fallen by the wayside. So if you know people or know someone that you took a course from that you think would be good to present a course, or if you have an idea of a course that you'd like to be the facilitator for and maybe prod and thread out the questions that you want that person to share, let me know, because, we want to, in this August, September time, feature people who are reservoirs of information. And that was one of the goals for the podcast. Age-Friendly City was changing the profile people have of older people and showcasing that whole reservoir and range of things that people are interested in and doing. Someone, when we said we were getting to know you last week, thought it was going to be like a potluck, and she said she was going to bring a plant and bring a pie. But that thing of potting, if there's someone that you know that knows something about gardening, I strive to not kill plants. So with the laptop, there's a robot. We're going to have JJ the robot. I'm going to learn how to use JJ the robot. One of the centers has gotten a robot, and it has TV. It has got 2 cameras. It's got a keyboard. So things that, if a person needs to be standing up, they don't have to move a mile back like I have to do with the laptop. There are cameras that can show what the person is doing in front of them and also show people in a range of movement. So if these are things you're interested in, or if you know somebody that we could invite to do something, please email me and let me know, because we're putting together those kinds of programs and opportunities. Mm-hmm. Okay, so thank you. And anyone else have any final comments, questions? I see you smiling, Leslie.
No, it's good to join in. I don't have any sort of particular comments right now.
Okay. And if anyone, next week, we are going to be honoring and connecting with Pride Week in Vancouver. And there is a program. If you go to our website, on the poweredbyage.com website, there's a poster for a program that's happening all day on Friday. But we're also looking to see whether we'll have someone with readings or commentary for our program next week. So until then, I will see you and wish you to have a wonderful, lively end of the week and weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte.
Hey, thanks,
Happy
Charlotte.
weekend, everybody.
You too, Ramona.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.